This week on the Salesforce Admins Podcast, we've got the much-loved John Demby, our resident Tableau guru, here to talk about some of the really super cool things that Tableau's come out with, specifically Tableau Pulse and Tableau Einstein. Now, you may remember John and his team create these amazing demos that really show all of the possibilities of Tableau Pulse and Tableau Einstein. And boy, we get into it about how we're driving insights with AI. And of course, we talk about why pie charts are so out. But this is a really fun episode. Now, before we get started, just a quick reminder, if you want to hit that follow button, that way, whatever podcast app you're listening to, every Thursday, a new episode will be downloaded right to your phone. So with that, let's talk Tableau Pulse and Tableau Einstein and get John on the podcast. So, John, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Mike, it's great to be back.
I know, it's been a while. So what have you been up to? What do you do at Salesforce for the people that haven't run into you at our many events?
Well, I have, I think, today the coolest job in the world. So I work in our pre-sales organization in solution engineering. But what I do is I lead a team of demo engineers. And you might go, demo engineers? Why is that really cool? Well, we get our hands on the solutions and the products ahead of our customers, and we get to put it through its paces and figure out what it really can do and how it can do it. And then we build these just really, pardon the expression, kick-ass demos to show to our customers and to anybody else that wants to see them. So, yeah, that's what I do is I lead a team, and they are all stars and amazing people, and we have just been killing it.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. I mean, that's also what admins do. Get our hands on stuff and try and build killer demos to get our executives to fund it.
Yeah. No, we've got a lot of similarities there. So
yeah, well, I mean, also a very close kinship. You kind of started out with Tableau the same way I did. You were just a super admin power user that got hired on.
Yeah. You know, my story goes back to a long time ago, probably about 12, 13, 14 years ago. I was working with Salesforce data, and I was leading at that time a pre-sales organization, and I couldn't get a decent report out of Salesforce. No offense to dashboards and reports, but and it was partly because of the way we had configured our Salesforce data. I mean, we had the same company in Salesforce maybe 70 times because they were all around the globe and stuff like that. And I couldn't figure out where my solution engineers were spending their time. I did a Google search, found this really cool thing called Tableau, downloaded it, and within about 10 minutes, I had the report that I'd been wanting to make for months. And so I kind of filed that away and became a power user of Tableau. And then when I was ready for a career change, it just worked out. And Tableau and I made things happen. We came to work for Tableau. I did some pre-sales work for Tableau, and then we got acquired by Salesforce. And then I got to do all sorts of cool things like move into the office of the chief product officer, where I worked on Salesforce Tableau integration strategies. And now I get to lead my fun team.
Yeah, I remember. Well, I mean, you're right. There's totally a limitation on the reports and dashboard stuff. But remember the last time we talked, and one of the things you kind of gave me the insight into was just all the visualizations that Tableau could do. And I think it was the biggest common mistake is everybody makes a pie chart.
Oh, yeah. Pie charts are not very good for analyzing data, believe it or not. But yeah, we build that into the product. In fact, when you start analyzing your data in Tableau, we actually propose or suggest or give you the best practice visualization for what you're trying to find.
So it's not a dashboard of pies.
No, not a dashboard of pies.
That's okay. We have AI now. So let's talk about that because we've got Tableau Einstein and Pulse. Help me figure out what these are because these sound fun.
Well, I want to talk to you a lot about Pulse today, but let's talk about Tableau Einstein real quick. So Tableau Einstein, well, Just back up. AI in general is disrupting everything, and very much so in the business analytics space. 2 years ago, I went to the Gartner Data and Analytics Conference, and all the vendors were starting to talk about AI. Last year, it was the subject of everybody. It was everybody had a cockpit or a co-pilot rather, and we're starting to feed data into LLMs. And now it is just got to be part of the table stakes of the application. You've got to be able to use the power of AI to be able to generate and understand and see things even quicker. And so what we did with Tableau Einstein is we are envisioning a new paradigm infused with AI and built on the Salesforce platform. So we're actually taking all of the goodness of Tableau, we're bringing it over to Salesforce. We're using all of the fantastic features of Data Cloud. We're adding things like a new semantic layer that we call Tableau Semantics. And then on top of all that, we have Tableau Agent, which is part of the Agentforce family. And it is going to be an evolving product. We showed our vision at Dreamforce. It'll take us the next couple of releases to fully get it realized, but it is an amazing leap forward as it relates to AI and especially integrating into Salesforce data.
I mean, is it really any surprise? Because I feel like for the last couple of years, especially once we talked about data cloud, and I remember having guests on talking about data lakes, and I was joked about putting a cabin out on a data lake. But
yeah.
I mean, we're at the point now where the amount of organizational data that we are creating it's almost incomprehensible to be analyzed by any human.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, what AI gives us, which is kind of cool, is traditionally BI tools rely on structure. They need the data in rows and columns or in a database or in something of that format. And what AI begins to do is it allows us to reach unstructured data. And that's a big value prop for Data Cloud right now is that people are able to ingest unstructured data. In Tableau Einstein is going to sit on top of that and be able to see both structured and unstructured data through AI. So it's really, to me, it's exciting. I've been in the space for a long time, and to see this disrupt and then us embrace the transformation has been pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I think back to the early days of Salesforce talking about Einstein and us talking about having to feed it, 100,000 rows for the LLM to kind of understand what like in a very simple use case, what makes an opportunity more likely to be won versus lost, and to feed it all of that data. But boy, you had to get your data in line, and like everything was get your ducks in a row, like data, this. And now it's data, but it's like, well, let the AI figure it out, right?
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that Salesforce has really hammered home, especially with our AI vision, is context is everything when it comes to AI. And as much context and information that you can derive, and we have it in Salesforce just out of the box, begins to really drive that AI interactivity in a way that without the context, AI is pretty dumb at that point if it doesn't really understand the context of what you're asking.
Yeah. Now, you sounded excited for Tableau Einstein, but you sounded over the moon for Tableau Pulse. So tell me about Pulse.
So we released Pulse back in February. And I guess here's my question for you, Mike. When's the last time you picked up an actual newspaper?
You mean outside of needing it to start a charcoal fire?
Yeah. Or actually read it or something like that. So, but you were probably like me. You probably got the Sunday paper back in. We're dating ourselves here.
I know,
back
little age.
Yeah,
Absolutely, the Sunday, because it had the thickest classifieds.
Oh yeah, well, thickest classified, but it had all
the Sunday cartoons,
and it had. For me, it had the score, all the information about the college games from around the country and stuff like that. But even when we had Sunday papers, if you were like me, you didn't read it in order. You went and grabbed your favorite section. Maybe for you, it was the classifieds. Maybe it was the comics or something like that. And so you would, pick and choose. And then when you would actually go through the newspaper, you probably would read a headline. And if the headline didn't grab you, you probably just moved on. And, since the pandemic and since the advent of smartphones and our attention spans really coming down considerably, there's lots of research that talk about that. Now, most people consume their news maybe on their smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
I know I use a news app and I've curated what I want. I pick the sources that I'm interested in, and it surfaces me high-level summaries. And in the morning when I wake up, I look at the news, want to make sure the world's still around, and I scroll through and I find something, maybe the latest story about, Taylor Swift and that other dude that she's dating. And
he plays football.
Yeah, he plays football. And they were saying that at the Taylor Swift concert Sunday, they were actually playing the football game on the big screen. So go figure how far we've come. But yeah, it's really a different paradigm where we look for information. And so we started thinking about, how do people consume data? And I think it's changed. I think people want to consume data in the flow of their work. I think they don't necessarily want to have to go look for it. They don't want to have to go interrogate a very complex dashboard. They want it to be contextual. They want it to be informational. They want it to be relatable to what they're looking at. And then they want it to tell them, maybe in plain language, maybe through AI, things that they should be worried about and things that they should double click on. And so that's what we did with Pulse, was we totally reimagined how people consume data for information. And we built an app that's very similar in some ways to a newspaper app on your phone that lets you pick the metrics that you're interested in. You can double click on them. It'll tell you what's up, what's down. It has AI infused in it. It has the ability to really give you insights very quickly. So then what you need to do is to take action, and either early warning or corrective action, or even if something's going great, letting your team know it's going great. So,
yeah, I mean, listening to you describe it, for the longest time that I've built reports and dashboards, I've never really thought about it in the way that you described it. But the way that I hear you talk now, it makes sense, because if you think about driving your car down the road, you look down at the speedometer and some gauges, make sure you have gas. You get real-time information in your car, so that if you're coming up on an exit and your car's getting low on fuel, you know to exit to get fuel. Whereas traditional reporting, it's kind of, you would do most of the trip and then you'd stop and go, okay, so how fast was I going and when do I need fuel?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I actually ran out of fuel a mile ago. As a traditional dashboard. So when you say it gives insights in the flow of work, where does that surface? Like, what should an admin be thinking about? Where should they put these insights, and what should they be looking for?
Well, what we did, so we launched the original product, Pulse, Tableau Pulse, in February. Since then, we have over 5,000 customers that were basically Tableau customers that have adopted the product. In about the beginning of the summer, we started asking the question, what if we could do and bring Pulse natively to the Salesforce platform? What would that look like? How would people consume it? And things like that. And so we were very aggressive. We took a very agile approach, maybe almost like a startup, and we built a companion product to Pulse that we call Pulse for Salesforce. And what it does is it takes these metrics, really show up in the form of like a KPI card. And the KPI card, like I said, has a big number. It tells you if you're up or down, gives you a spark line, begins to tell you in plain language what's happening. So, you can read that. And then as you double click into it, it gives you all of the additional information that you've asked for, the outliers, the what's up, what's down, what's causing this, what should I be looking at. So over the summer, we built Pulse for Salesforce, and we released it a couple of weeks before Dreamforce. And it is as simple as installing a managed package.
Ooh.
And then we drop in 9 pre-configured Sales Cloud metrics. So we started with Sales Cloud. We're looking at expanding into the other clouds, into the industries and Service Cloud. But it actually gives you 9 pre-built metrics. And the good news is we gave you permissions to be able to create all the metrics you want on any of the data as long as you surface it inside of Salesforce. From that perspective. So if you've got some external data that your salespeople would really value and seeing right there on the opportunity record or the homepage or something like that, you can actually add those metrics, not just the 9 that we ship. And it's just embedded in Salesforce. It works on Salesforce Mobile. We actually made it to pop up off the utility bar, which people think is really cool. So I'm right there in the sales app, and at any point I want, I hit the button and I've got pulse metrics. But yeah, you can stick it anywhere inside of Salesforce. We give you those 9 pre-built ones, but we don't limit you to that. And yeah, it's a simple app, but it is a very powerful app. And we're already seeing demand. We've got hundreds of customers already lined up that want to get on board with Pulse for Salesforce.
I mean, that utility bar is so underutilized. I need to work that into demos more. As you explain through that, I'm hearing yet another reason for Data Cloud, because it's not only the data in Salesforce, but the data that you bring to or surface, as you said. So if I had Data Cloud and I was just bringing in data, then Tableau Pulse can help me bring insight to that.
Oh yeah,
as well,
absolutely.
Right?
Now we don't. So Pulse for Salesforce assumes that maybe you don't have Data Cloud, so we don't make that a requirement. But if you do have Data Cloud, or if you are moving along with us because you really see the value of Agentforce and all the things that Data Cloud's going to power, then yes, Tableau has a live connector to Data Cloud. You could create these additional metrics or data that you bring into Data Cloud, or zero copy, or any of that kind of stuff right there in Data Cloud, and then have these pulse metrics sit on top of them so that you're giving your people the most up-to-date information possible so they can make data-driven decisions.
Yeah. And so I think I heard you say this, but I just want to make sure, because this is really cool. Tableau Pulse helps me understand the what, but I think you were getting at more than that. It also helps me understand the why. Can you explain that?
So one of the things that we've built into Pulse for Salesforce and Tableau Pulse is this, in addition to surfacing insights that may be relevant and popping those up immediately. So let's just say, for instance, I'm looking, one of the out-of-the-box metrics for Pulse for Salesforce is conversion rate. And the metric card tells me my conversion rate's down over last month, and gives me some indicators from that perspective. And I double click in, and maybe the first thing that Pulse tells me is these are the segments that you're underperforming in. So I can begin to take some analysis. Maybe I need to look at that, but maybe I want to ask it a question. And so we do have Q&A built into the product. So I'm not bound by what Pulse tells me. I can actually click the ask button and then just type a plain language question like, tell me, what industries are in decline or something like that. And then it will source that information for me, and I can begin to do that additional analysis. And then with tools like Slack and others, I can take those insights and even share them with others in my organization.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Is it's fun if one person knows about it, but how do they broadcast that out? And it sounds like you've got that figured out with collaboration.
Yeah, collaboration is built into the product. This idea of sharing is really critical in the solution. I could share a number of different ways, but keep in mind, we do usually encourage customers to adhere to some level of security. Mm-hmm. So if I try to share an insight with somebody that they don't have access to, that I've set up in Tableau, they won't see it. But that's fine because we want governance, we want data governance and stuff like that. But it still gives you that ability for that data that you do share and you do have to very quickly share those insights and start a conversation about it.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is one of the often overlooked things is you set up your profile, your permission set groups once in Salesforce, and then everything on the platform respects that. And you don't have to worry about, we use this third-party tool and then going over there and learning their terminology and then configuring that and then hoping you got it right.
Yeah.
I like that. As an admin, who do you often talk to in organizations about Tableau Pulse? Because I can, more often than not, admins are square in the middle of business process. They're like the BAs. They often do BA work. Mm-hmm. They know the pain points of the end user, and they often need to translate that up to executives to say, here's a way that we can improve our process better, but also, it's going to cost money. Where often in organizations are you talking to people about Tableau Pulse?
Well, Pulse is really, it's interesting. When Tableau first started, Tableau was really spoke to the business user. We made it really easy that a business user, like I said in my introduction with how I found Tableau, could easily go and get a license and start using Tableau. We still do that today. We still have an online store, and anybody can buy Tableau, even if it's one license, to get started and things like that. But it's usually the business that drives this. It's like, okay, I need these insights. And I would imagine it's the same customers that admins deal with on a day-to-day basis as their end users and leaders and people that are overseeing things in Salesforce. They want these kind of things. And what we've done, especially with Pulse for Salesforce, is we've made it, because of the managed package, we've made it really easy for a Salesforce admin to set this up with really little to no Tableau experience, and then get started, and then they can expand their usage and learn more about the product and stuff like that. But it's the business, I think, is really who's driving a lot of this. In fact, one of the things that it's a stat that's kind of out there is a 70%, if I remember it right, 70% of leaders really want their organizations to be data driven. Mm. But when you look at it, only about 30% of the potential knowledge workers, and so think of a knowledge worker as really anybody that could use data to influence a decision. So that could be all the way down to the shop floor. So knowledge workers are everywhere. They're not just behind a desk and things like that. But only about 30% of those actually have access to data. And sometimes, like I said, it's locked away. It may be in a dashboard. So we actually ask them to go find it. But the future is really bringing it in the flow, embedding it in where they are, being able to show it on things like mobile devices and tablets and all those kind of accelerated devices where you can get more information. So, I think admins will find that it's a very common conversation to have with the business. And we're happy to have it with you to talk to you about all the different industry use cases and all the different options that we've seen people use Pulse for.
You're the perfect segue. I was going to ask, because one thing that I don't ask enough on this podcast, I try to keep things generic and applicable to most, but industry use cases and industries. What is there any industries this is specifically geared for, or which ones are really benefiting most?
That's a great question. In fact, I'll kind of in case my team actually listens to this, which I don't know if they will or not.
Of course
but I'll
they do. Everybody listens to the
everybody
admin
listens to the
podcast.
podcast, but I'll actually compliment them because once we launched Pulse, we started on a mad project to enable and create as many industry demos as we could on Pulse and do everything from HLS, healthcare, to financial services, to nonprofit, to public sector, to manufacturing, to, I'm going to leave some of them out, Salesforce, all the Salesforce clouds, really marketing, HR. There's really not a use case out there that Pulse doesn't meet some need for because everybody's got KPIs. And it's what's kind of fun to me is I had a sales. So I'm going to talk about how great it is to use AI here too. I had a sales rep come to me and says, "Hey, I've got a customer. They're buying loyalty management from Salesforce, and I want to know what I could do from a Pulse perspective." Well, we got 50 plus demos out there, but we haven't got the 51 done for loyalty management yet. And It's a product that I'm not as familiar with. And so I turned to my friend AI that we actually have licensed in-house. And so it's secure and everything like that. And I simply ask it, tell me the pulse metrics for loyalty management. And next thing I know, I had about 10 pulse metrics that called out that you could actually write on loyalty management. And it was very simple, very clean. I could actually take those definitions, create my data set from loyalty management, and build out those metrics just in a matter of minutes and then share them with the organization.
Wow.
So AI is helping us even figure out what ways to deploy our software, which I think is really cool.
I mean, yeah, that's always beneficial. You think of, and especially for an organization like Salesforce, how much documentation and video and just even internal assets we create. And it can be hard to know where it all is and what's what too.
Mm-hmm.
So, John, thanks for coming on and talking Tableau Einstein and Pulse with us. It's always good to hear. Are you going to any world tours this
I think I may end up at the Dallas World Tour since it's local.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's...
I would say look for the guy in the cowboy hat, but if you're going to the Dallas World Tour...
surprisingly enough, even at the Dallas World Tour, I will probably be the only person in a cowboy hat because I seem to be pretty... Although it was interesting, I will say this. I was at, of course, Dreamforce with you a couple of weeks ago or a month ago or however long it was. And I'm coming down the escalator. Know.
It was in the past. But
yeah, it's in the past. But I'm coming down the escalator and I'm going to do a session in one of the broadcast theaters. And I literally walked by a guy with a cowboy hat. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm the only one out of the 45,000 people who are supposed to have a cowboy hat in
Didn't you
San
get
Francisco.
The memo?
So, yeah, there you go. But no, look for me at the Dallas World Tour. I would love to catch up with you and any other way, just reach out to me on LinkedIn or however you want to find me. Be happy to chat.
Was it a white cowboy hat? Because I will say this. You have the most crisp white cowboy hat.
Yes. I have a collection.
I'm sure.
Much to the chagrin of my wife, but I do have a collection of cowboy hats. And yes, for Dreamforce, I was wearing a nice kind of silver white hat.
Yeah.
So.
No, I remember it. So did the other person have a white cowboy hat or do you not remember?
I think it was brown.
Okay, right. See, so I mean, you're one of one.
I was the only one with the silver cowboy hat there. There you go.
No, it's awesome. Well, good. Well, if people make it down to Dallas, then look for you. I'm sure won't be hard to find anybody else walking around with a white cowboy hat. But also think of it like they can also just go. They're in the perfect city to get themselves a white cowboy hat.
Yeah, there you go. Or ask me. I live in Fort Worth. I'll hook you up with my hat guy if you want a hat.
A good haberdasher that can form and foam like that. That is, I have gone down that rabbit hole of TikTok before for a couple hours and watched them, how they can make those hats and steam and form.
Oh yeah. It's in fact, art. In fact, I have one sitting by my desk that I need to go see my hat guy and have him shape it back up because it's a little crooked. So I need to do that this week.
Oh, so cool. I could watch those too. Thanks so much, John.
Sure.
Have a great world tour, and we're going to go check out some more Tableau, Einstein, and Pulse.
All right. Sounds good.
Well, it was another great discussion with John. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. It was a fun reminder of just all the amazing things that Tableau can help us Salesforce admins do in terms of driving insight across our orgs. Now, if you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to share it with a friend or a colleague, especially if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Generally, there's like 3 dots in the corner, and you can click share episode, and then you can post it to social or maybe text it to a friend. Now, we mentioned a few things, so any resources and really just a lot of content for you to check out is over at admin.salesforce.com. That's where you can find a ton of blog posts that me and the whole admin team create to help you be successful with our product and in your career. And of course, you can find everything that we mentioned, links in the show notes, including an episode transcript if you need to go back and check that out. And don't forget to join the conversation with other Salesforce admins over in the Admin Trailblazer group. That is over in the Trailblazer community. Again, you know where to find the link. It's in the show notes. So until next week, we'll see you in the cloud.